24 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
And I look forward to continuing this dialogue in the months ahead. Thank you very much, everybody.
Biggest violations of medical ethics ever perpetrated on U.S. citizens. This week, medical experts and others are meeting to make sure something like this never happens again. And leading that effort is Amy Gutmann. She heads the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues, and she is also the president of the University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Gutmann, thanks for being with us. This is not a single incident. We've actually had many of these things happen. What is the purpose of your commission? Are we worried that these types of things are still happening today?
Allie, we can't know whether these things are happening today unless we have a fact-finding mission, and that's what President Obama has asked the Presidential Commission on Bioethics to do, to actually meet with experts and ask them, what is it today that would prevent these things from happening again? They've happened too many times in our history, and we want to make sure, and the President wants to make sure, that we can assure the American public that if they are part of a scientific experiment or a medical experiment, they will be treated with respect and fairly. So we don't know right now how the United States is relative to the rest of the world, and that's why the President has asked me to convene an international task force of experts. And those experts are going to sit down with me, and we're going to actually discuss how different countries and the United States fare in this regard. And we should come up with a report by year's end that can inform the public as well as the President of where we stand.
Okay, we know you're having more hearings in May. We'll follow this along with you. Very curious to see what happens. Dr. Amy Gutmann is the chair of the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues and the president of the University of Pennsylvania.
To do is just very quickly go around and have the commission members just introduce themselves, and then I'm going to open it up to a few questions. Yeah. Barbara, would you begin? Put your mic on.
Thanks. Barbara Atkinson from the University of Kansas Medical Center.
Nelson Michael from the Walter Army Institute of Research.
Christine Grady from the Department of Bioethics at the Clinical Center, NIH.
John Aris from a place you might know something about, University of Virginia.
Lonnie Ali.
Jim Wagner from Emory.
Raju Kuchalafari, Harvard Medical School.
Nita Farahani from Vanderbilt University.
Steve Hauser, UC San Francisco.
Anita Allen, University of Pennsylvania.
Alex Garza, Department of Homeland Security.
And Dan Solmesi, the University of Chicago.
Certainly the problem of incidental findings, though, is an enormous, obvious overlap with the genetic situation. MRI scans often give things you didn't expect, and often they're things you don't know what to do with. UBOs, as they're called, unidentified bright objects. Do you want to have one of those in your brain? Well, you might, and what are you going to do with that? Very difficult to say. And then getting again into forensics, lie detection, certainly there are those who believe this will become a more accurate means of assessing when somebody is practicing deception, and then other available methods. Personality prediction or profiling, again, something that might be used in making decisions about who gets access to which particular kinds of jobs or in the military, or also could be used in courts of law. Neuromarketing, a little scary concept there. Neuromarketing, a little scary concept there, trying to assess when people are responding effectively to certain kinds of advertising or branding, or even who's got the brain that's going to be most susceptible to a particular kind of manipulation.
So given the context of today's meeting, I pulled up an old slide, not that old, about a decade ago, the cover of The Economist, The Future of Mind Control. And I thought that the headline of the article was an especially nice one to start with. It started with a quote, in case you can't read it. It says, "Genetics may yet threaten privacy, kill autonomy, make society homogeneous, and gut the concept of human nature." In other words, destroy Western civilization. But neuroscience could do all of these things first. So yes for us. And this next slide will show when you actually look at it on the surface, when you blow up the brain, basically take the raisin and turn it back into the grape, there's our M right on the back of the brain. So the point of this is that we have a direct way to visualize what you're seeing. And of course, because we know that the visual cortex activates when we imagine visual scenes, we know it activates when we're dreaming, it raises the possibility that we can actually see what others are thinking or dreaming.
So to begin, let's consider mental privacy. Each of us is accustomed to his thoughts being accessible only to himself. And with neuroimaging, however, the privacy of our innermost thoughts is at least potentially threatened. The risk is far from immediate, but the recent advances made by novel techniques in discerning mental content from brain scans are impressive.
My question goes back to Dr. Rosen from session 2 this morning. He mentioned that we are still a few years away from covert brain imaging. But in 2009, early 2009, CNN reported that they were using remote neuromonitoring in the war on terror. Perhaps you can explain the difference, and is it possible that the Defense Department has moved past the medical community for neuroimaging capabilities? Thank you.
Welcome to Wake Up America. My name is Phil Marie. Sitting in tonight for Wally is nobody. He was tired, and so I said take the night off. What you guys watched right there was part of the Presidential Bioethics Commission, and last week I went on a little bit of a rant, and for good reason. I'm tired of being tortured, and a lot of you people that have been watching for 3.5 years, you're well aware of what I've been through, and so tonight we're going to talk about this subject in depth a little bit more than usual, because I want to be fair to Wally. But we have 2 other videos, and I've had a request for this for many times to show other victims. So in this commission that they had, the hearing, I have 2 other videos of victims. And they're like maybe 6 or 7 minutes each, but it's sad, it's gut-wrenching to listen to these people, women, complain about their children being attacked with this weaponry. And as in this beginning thing, the news clip mentioned that Obama requested this, and I'm very disappointed. I know, not many people like the man, but he could have scored some big points looking into this matter. Even our own senators, Murphy, Blumenthal, blowing all this hot air on the Senate floor, gun control if we save one life. There's tons of people dying from this abuse, torture, and I told you last week, every day I have to say to myself, I don't fear these government thugs, and I don't fear death, and because I know that they could take me out like that. And unfortunately, we have, let's say, Joe Courtney, Congressman Joe Courtney, for instance. He won't even talk to me. I've tried for years with this guy, and it's sad. You got Malloy, you got Blumenthal, you got Murphy, They all want gun control. They all want to save one life. We can just save one life. But they won't look into this evil crimes taking place. A lot of this technology being used is via satellites. Potentially the cell phones are also involved, the smartphones, the cell towers, drones. And then Homeland Security is involved also. And Homeland Security, I have some articles I'm going to show here, but Homeland Security is working with a lot of local authorities now. And I'm going to show you quite a few articles tonight also to show, like the state of Vermont, for instance, just passed a big law regarding privacy, and I'm really impressed with that. And I think other states should wake up and realize that the bottom line is, I've been warning everybody, protect your mind, protect your mind. Because if they get your mind, then they get your whole life, and then they go after your soul. And you know what? Your soul is the most important, where we go when we die. And usually wealthy people don't think about this too much until towards the end of their death. Then they get a little nervous where they're going. In my situation, I'm being blocked from ever getting justice with NBC, Mandel. I talk about it all the time. I'll keep talking about it. This is what started the whole thing. GE owned NBC. GE makes the MRI machines. You remember the Matrix commercial that they had? GE had a commercial. And by the way, this weekend was not very good for me. Father's Day wasn't that good either. My mother passed away June 18th, 3 years ago, and some of you may remember, I did a little tribute, whatever, but a common thread with this targeting is that they go after family members also. Not just one person, they'll go after family members. And the way my mother was treated, I have yet to tear ass on L&M Hospital right down the street. The way they treated her in her last 2 days, 3 days, was outrageous. And I could go there with a video camera, show you exactly what they did, where they brought her, this, that. I was in an outrage. And I believe, part of me believes it was done deliberately to cause more pain on me, to scare me. I don't know, to scare me what? So I end my life? I still don't understand all that, but they messed with the wrong person, and I'm gonna fight this till the end. And when you see these other videos, I don't want to go too long here, I gotta watch the time, but when you see these testimonies, it's very sad, very sad. And one of the biggest two reasons coming on here is to give me a platform to talk about the injustice and the cruelty and the torture and torment and harassment taking place. Reg, camera 3. All right. See that picture there? I'm going to talk about that picture. This guy's snapping photos of me at the gas station, and I will try to talk about this tonight. Thanks, Reg. Now, I have a video of this, and the powers to be with the electronic weapons would not let me upload the video to YouTube, burn a DVD. I know who the guy is, believe it or not, and I know where he lives. And man, it's anyway. So I'm gonna leave that alone. Let me get back. We should probably run the second video. This is what you're gonna see is testimony of many victims of this same weaponry being used against them. You guys use your own judgment. I mean, I've had a lot of people ask me to show more victims of this type of harassment. So why don't we watch this, and I'll be back. Can we run that, Reg?
My name is Dr. John Hall. I'm a medical doctor from Texas. As I understand the memorandum from the President, it's for you to determine if current legislation is adequate in protecting individuals and if there's any ongoing experimentation. In reviewing the common rule, it's very obvious that there's a lot of loopholes to informed consent. All of the horrific experiments you've mentioned, Willowbrook, MK Ultra, radiation experiments, mostly were done without informed consent. They were funded by the DoD and intelligence agencies, where I'm not even so sure you would know if there's an IRB, much less if an IRB is looking at informed consent. As a physician, relative to some of what you're hearing today, in the community, we are seeing an alarming rate of complaints of use of electromagnetic weapons, microwave auditory effects, silent sound spectrum, EEG cloning, which has taken the lab out of the laboratory and into the home. Most of these, from the research that we reviewed, can be done remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. I've personally corresponded with upwards of 1,500 victims, all complaining of identical complaints from every state in the nation of being exposed to electromagnetic radiation, non-ionizing radiation for the use of cognitive control or behavior control. I've submitted a paper to you, and there's another paper submitted to each member from another physician in Kansas City alluding to the same thing.
My name is James Walbert. To date, I have one of the strongest cases documented of these unethical violations against our society. Due to the facts of having the kinds of professionals that I have involved with this case, I have been able to prove that this crime against others and myself is real and shows reason to be concerned with. I am in hopes that I am able to prove the same thing to this committee. And by the introduction of the evidence that I have to introduce to the committee, I and the professionals that are standing with myself in this crime would like for this committee to consider the introduction of these documents with the growing concern of this crime to the President for his review. With these hopes in mind for this consideration, I would also like to ask of this committee to consider an investigation into these unethical violations of others and myself that are affected by this crime. With this consideration of this investigation request into these matters, I would also like to point out the abuses of children that have been documented by the many professionals that I am currently working with into these matters of this crime. To date, the professionals have been documenting these offenses against the children that are related to the many victims of these crimes. They have proven this concern to be valid, as I am pointing out to this committee, the growing concern of fellow states that have now passed laws against forced chipping of an RFID tracking chip. I was also wanting to ask if I could provide a portfolio of introduction of 12 professionals from political support to medical investigations, as well as private investigative support to the committee as well for review.
May, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Lisa Becker. I am also from Wisconsin. I have been a non-consenting test subject in military medical research. I too believe my experience is referred to as no-touch torture, utilizing defense technologies. Jonathan Marino, he basically predicted all this a number of years ago in his book Undue Risk. I'm asking you to help initiate a congressional investigation. We've all come a long way. This is what is needed. We want to have the accounts of this extreme human rights abuse that's going on in our country documented and heard, all of the accounts. We also need what was done during the Clinton administration, which is a major declassification of some of these documents that are hiding what's been going on. I speak for many when I say we've suffered long enough. My personal experience has been 10 years. I've been vilified. I've been ostracized. I've been tortured. I have burns on my body. I'm an American. I have rights. The answer to the question, the big question today, could it happen today? The answer is yes, it is happening today. It is happening for some of us every day. I am begging for you to help us. Thank you.
My name is Jeremy Radlow. I'm here to tell you that non-consensual human experimentation is happening in the United States today. I've been the subject of this experimentation for more than 5 years. Calling these activities experimentation is truthful but possibly distracting. I think the criteria governing the selection of experimentees will prove to be a much bigger scandal than the experimentation itself. The psychological torture protocol that's part of the so-called experimentation includes, but is not limited to, the use of non-lethal weapons and mind-invasive technology. Sleep deprivation, pain center stimulation, and worse are used against subjects. While some experimentees have found foreign objects in their bodies suggesting implantation, most have not. Receiverless mind-invasive technology has been demonstrated under laboratory conditions, but the most likely explanation is that experimentees are implanted with foreign objects either too small to appear on commercially available scanning equipment or designed to be indistinguishable from the surrounding tissue. These activities are highly deceptive, use clandestine technology, and have the fingerprint of the CIA all over them. It's unreasonable to expect isolated individuals receiving this treatment to furnish proof. A thorough investigation is warranted. Thanks for your time.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan, and please give us a congressional hearing. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. That was a few victims, and most of them are fairly decent people that I've met, intelligent, and some people don't know why they're victimized, but as you see, there's other victims talking about their children. So my question is, and I don't know if on that last video or the next one that I'm going to show, woman talks about sexual arousement or forced orgasms. What are these men doing? Are they like, and excuse me, I'm not being gross, but I'm being realistic. Are these military men or NSA men or Homeland Security men, are they masturbating? I just want to know, are they masturbating when they're forcing orgasms on these women? It's so disgusting, and what are they doing to children? It's so disgusting, and I just thank God all the time. Every day I thank God I'm alive, and I'm actually can talk about this because I don't know how I made it alive out of New Hampshire. I really don't. I was normally I weigh what, 235, 240. I was down to 188 pounds. I was a wreck, and they kept shocking me, and they put me in the hospital, which I mentioned, to you guys. I had a mini stroke, facial paralysis for like months. My whole right side was just completely numb, and then it went into migraines. I've never had migraines for like a month. Migraines, and on and off the ringing of the ears, and that was under the Bush administration, by the way. They were very evil with this weaponry. I don't know if it's the same, if it changes with the administration, but I can tell you one thing. I'll bet you anything Obama saw all this and realized how powerful these weapons are and said, I'm not going to stop these. I want to use these weapons. And I think that's what's going on. and I gotta keep track of time here because I do want to show the other testimony. But think about people like Bernie Sanders, for instance, Vermont, right? He's on the same team, Obama, the Democrats. If Trump gets in, this technology can be used potentially against them, against the Democrats. So whoever's in the White House has the advantage, and they're not going to stop this technology. And a former president won't do it either. So, but Vermont's very interesting. You would think it's kind of a liberal state, but yet they still believe in their gun rights and all that. But this is an interesting article. Reg, camera 3. This is a bill that was signed by the governor. Sweeping Vermont privacy law will hinder several federal surveillance programs. All right? On page 2, you have stingrays, which are the cell phone, they simulate a cell phone tower, which is used by law enforcement, and illegally, by the way, drones, electronic data, and what else was it? Oh, license plate readers on the other page. Thanks, Reg. So real quick, I have to, I guess, pick up the pace here. I'm going too slow and I got too many videos. But the stingrays, the new law virtually bans the use of cell site simulators known as stingrays. These devices essentially spoof cell phone towers, tricking any device within range into connecting to the stingray instead of the tower, allowing law enforcement to sweep up communications content as well as to locate and track the person in possession of a specific phone or electronic device. Same in Vermont, banned these things without a search, without a warrant, which is important. Same with the drones, the same thing. They were using drones to monitor and track people, same thing. Right here it talks about it bans the use of any drone-mounted facial recognition technology. I've been warning you guys, don't get these TVs or any devices that have facial recognition. You're literally marked, Mark the Beast maybe, you're marked for life with that. Once the facial recognition locks in on you, Walmart uses a lot of this technology, by the way. So that's something that's very creepy, and I don't mind sharing this because I'm hoping that if one little seed of information helps somebody, amen. That's what I want to try to accomplish here, because it's creepier than you can even, and it's getting worse as you go every day. Technology is just getting worse. And if you saw the guy in the first video, the intro, he says that this technology could ruin Western civilization, and then he said something like, but neuroscience will do it first, and raises his arm. This is the arrogance of these people at the universities. And if you notice, they're all different universities, Homeland Security, blah, blah, blah. It's getting really bad. It's all about the big money, big bucks. They're all getting grants and this and that, and they're destroying people's lives while they're making themselves wealthy. Another part of this article, electronic data prohibits law enforcement from obtaining electronic information and data from service providers, telecoms, what have you. I've been warning you about them too, without a warrant or subpoena. So that's the data and the license plate readers. We know what that's all about. They keep track of you. Walmart has them, actually. You drive in, they read they know who's there, who isn't there, and then you're seen in Groton. They can pretty much pinpoint what you're doing, where you're going. In the back of this article, and I wish I had more time, you guys, I'm on overload with information. I just never could imagine I would learn so much in 3.5 years. I feel like a walking encyclopedia, and I try to do everything in 1 hour. It's impossible, but nonetheless. This article ends by saying, revealed the extent of such NSA data sharing with state and local law enforcement in August 2013 article, 2013, according to documents obtained by the news agency, the NSA passes information to the police through a formerly secret DEA unit known Special Operations Divisions, and the cases rarely involve national security issues. Almost all of the information involves regular criminal investigations, non-terror related investigations. In other words, not only does the NSA collect and store the data, using it to build profiles, the agency encourages state and local law enforcement to violate the Fourth Amendment by making use of this information in their day-to-day investigations. So, saying that, the NSA gives the information to the local law enforcement. So, let's go to camera 3, Reg. DHS, right? There he is, Homeland Security, the head of it there. What's his name? Jay Johnson. Right-wingers pose same threat as Islamic jihadists, all right? So Christians, I guess, thanks, Reg, Christians pose the same threat. So what DHS does is they fabricate a national security letter or executive security orders. Reg, camera 3. And here's another article about the Department of Defense directives and executive security orders, which is like national, thanks, Reg, national security letters that are completely fabricated. And in my situation, there was definitely a gag order, something issued up there in New Hampshire, because nobody could even say NBC. I said all I did was apply to that game show, Deal or No Deal, on NBC, and numerous people would go, I have no idea what you even mean. I say, the game show, NBC, never heard of it. I don't even know what it means. Then they got nervous and they'd walk away. And so there was definitely a gag order. I've been through this before. But so they fabricate gag orders and then they go after the people, and it's usually because they're trying to quiet them or keep them, in my case, from suing for this horrible stuff that they did to me in my house, the voyeuristic house of hell up there in New Hampshire. And Erin Andrews sued because she had hidden cameras in a motel, but she had the media, the dark media, behind her suing, so she could sue. Hulk Hogan sued Gawker, and I like to call these stalkers and gawkers and hidden camera, these creeps, gawkers, but Hulk Hogan sued Gawker, but he was backed by a billionaire who had an issue with either the owner of Gawker, somebody tied in with Gawker. And I don't think that if Hulk Hogan didn't have the backing of this billionaire, he might not have been able to pull off a lawsuit. So it depends on what side of the field you're on. You're on the team of the good or the team of the bad, the dark, the evil, or are you on God's team, the good people? So anyways, and there is people in the media that are good people, don't get me wrong, but the higher ups, the higher you are, the owners of all these different media companies are usually dark. And they're willing to do anything for money, and they share this marketing stuff back and forth and spy and listen and everything. O'Reilly warned, I played that a couple weeks ago, about these devices. All these devices are spying on us. So your conversation is not private in your house at all, and it gets real old, real fast. It gets real old. But the New York Times had an article a couple weeks ago, I mentioned it, on targeted individuals, and they mocked it, and they took the guy, he had a rough life because of this, and droopy eyes. They emphasized on the guy's appearance, but they didn't ask one of those women that were attractive or someone else. No, they asked this guy, and they focus on him with the droopy eyes in the article, and it was all fabricated, the story. And so I was glad to see a bunch of other articles come out in regards to that. Reg, camera 3. Right here, the New York Times hit piece on targeted individuals says Believing that the government is targeting its citizenry is a mental illness. 10,000 plus crazies banding together. They're paranoid, right? Thanks, Reg. Now, that's how they cover their ass. The law enforcement, Kelly Ayotte, Attorney General of the state of New Hampshire. Now she's Senator Ayotte, fighting for her life to be re-elected, and I hope some of my tweets give her a nice zing back to her. But their game plan was to label me mentally ill. And I believe there's some local law enforcement that are trying to take this avenue against me and whatever. You guys saw the thing with the fire trucks and my truck being shut down. Not the fire trucks did it. Government did it, but then they call it in to get in your face and what have you, to rattle you. So I'm well prepared for all this, and that's why I like coming on the show, because at least I can explain this stuff to you, and hopefully some law enforcement are watching. Some of my best friends are retired law enforcement. We got JB. I talk to him often, and one of my best friends in New Hampshire is retired police chief. I like the law enforcement when they're good people, when they're honest, doing their job. But if they're crooked and corrupt, I don't like them. Who likes crooked people? Who likes crooked Hillary? Nobody. But anyways, we got to watch the time. Reg, camera 3. Now we're looking at, this is an article, believe it or not, from the Pravda. This is the Russian newspaper. You guys can look this up online. These guys corrected the article in regards to the New York Times, and they told the story more of how it is. So great article, and it's Pravda, PravdaReport.com. PravdaReport.com. But anyways, a great article. Thanks, Reg. So we are zipping by, and I wish I talked a little faster in the beginning, but I was getting a lot of zaps to my body, and I didn't want to lose my cool. So anyways, Reg, let's run this last video, and again, it's more testimony by these people, and I'll talk to you soon. Can we run that, please?
My name is Dr. John Hall.
Peter Rosenholm. I'm from Rhode Island. It's non-consensual human experimentation. It's remote. It's covert. It's hard to prove it a lot of times. Many of my attacks were microwave weapons. Medusa is one. In all the hospital statements when I was hospitalized, I told of being hit by radiation weapons, that I could hear voices. Medusa now admits to all those capabilities. The other thing we deal with is like a COINTELPRO attack. Law enforcement attacks us, discredits us, will put us in a mental hospital if we try too hard. These people all don't want to go to doctors. The Patriot Act has provisions where doctors have to follow what they say. So a lot of these people aren't getting their teeth fixed, aren't going for medical care. We're in a bad situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Connie Marshall. I'm a former mayoral candidate from Louisville, Kentucky. I have never been involved in any criminal activity. I found a document in my bank account that said, problem with Kentucky government, check federal government paperwork and file before releasing information to anyone. I am an 8-year victim survivor of assaults by directed energy weapons. The torture I've experienced consists of mind paralysis, being hypnotized or placed in a trance-type state, being tracked by a drone or satellite, controlled dreams, sleep deprivation, V2K, which is voice to skull, projected sound, extreme muscle spasms, and extreme muscle cramps. Low-frequency noises in my home, high-frequency noises in my home, sexual stimulation. I am watched in my home 24 hours a day and followed around everywhere I go, though I do not have a criminal history. When I ran for mayor of my town, I was also attacked at debates and forums. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deborah Paulson from Kenosha, Wisconsin. I'm going to refer to a paper from Professor McCoy at the University of Wisconsin on no-touch torture. He talks about a total assault on all senses and sensibilities, auditory, visual, tactile, temporal, temperature, and survival, refined through years of practice, Sensory disorientation relies on a mix of sensory overload and sensory deprivation via banal procedures, isolation, then intense interrogation, heat and cold, light and dark, noise and silence, for a systematic attack on all human stimuli. I've been a human subject for experimentation for almost 2 years, and I've contacted Dr. Hall. I stand with a very large group. Excuse me, I'm very nervous, but I'm very tired of having my rights taken away, and thank you for hearing me.
Say, I've spoken to probably 3,000 people. He's on probably 1,500. He's on 5,000. There's a lot of us across the U.S. And there's certain statistics, I think, that if you find that there is something going on wrong, somewhere along the line somebody has to do an investigation. There's a certain percentage. You said you guys wanted to be in the know. We're giving you the information now so that you are in the know. There is something going on. And I think yesterday some of the colleagues went ahead and said that we didn't really talk about whether there's energy weapons or not. But, I mean, we have thousands and thousands of documentations about energy weapons themselves. And all we're asking for is an investigation on this. People are being harmed, people are being tortured, and people are being killed. And I think it's a pretty important thing for a bioethic committee to look into. And all we ask today is to please do that. My friends are dead, tortured to death by electronic weapons. And I don't know how many more people will die. And I hope I will be here again if you have this next year.
I'm going to do the best that I can while being hurt by a national defense weapon that our country built. I love our country, but I am in contact and have been with the chief of the Department of Defense Fraud, Waste, and Abuse hotline. He's worked with me and my wife for 2 years, and he went to the Pentagon after we were aerosoled by a jet at 150 to 200 miles an hour, that being me and my wife. That's why my face is rebuilt, and she's at home taking care of 100 head of cattle with a brain tumor. I've had 3 removed. I guess my point would be this, is that I stood up to this program, and that would be the Joint Operations System that our country built with the non-lethal and less than lethal weapons system. And I'm the only one known in the world, besides the people that helped build this system, to have this actual pulse on camera and have caught it. And I would like to submit that disc. But I guess the one question I would have, it's okay, Eli, you don't have to beat me up for the microphone. The one question I would have is, first of all, I would like to submit this to you as promptly as possible, and then ask each and every one of you that 90% of the people that approached you spoke the same way I am, scared, but also spoke. They're speaking of directed energy weapons. That was phased out with the non-lethal and less than lethal programs, and we all know that. Most of you do anyways. Would you please help save my life? Ma'am?
My name is Letitia Peters. I'm from Trenton, New Jersey. I was a federal government employee working 16 years as an electronics engineer right here in Washington, D.C., where I got sick due to toxic mold exposure. And when I started complaining about it and using my rights, I believe now, after 5 years of being out of the government, after 16 years of service, that I was put into this 24/7 execution chamber. And I, too, am looking for congressional investigations. I should be covered under the Whistle Protection Blowers Act. And I, too, would like to submit documentation, which I presented. And I have been denied medical treatment. I have been disregarded as being non-human. All my rights have been violated. And I just want to demonstrate some of the evidence that I have and provide to you, because I've been trying to get to the president, but I know all of my information has been rerouted. So I, too, am requesting a congressional investigation as well.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nigel Nicholson, and I have been in a psychological coercive mind control program. This started in 2002, where I was falsely arrested, I was drugged, and I believe I was hypnotized. I've been job mobbed. I've been put into what I call a assassination type program. Okay, I've been villainized. My friends has totally retreated from me, even though I've continuously reached out to them. Okay, I have been under what I believe is neuro monitoring. When I can think of something and go outside and somebody will walk by me and repeat what I just said, I know I'm not crazy. Okay, regardless of what is being said, they make the victims of these programs to be diagnosed with a psychological illness to hide these crimes, because we all know that to discredit an individual, if you give them a mental illness or diagnose them with a mental illness, no one is going to believe us. No one is going to believe you or I. And this is how they are hiding these crimes.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we're back. There you go. There's more testimonials of victims of this horrible stuff. And like I said before, I try to give you guys the truth and what have you. And I also mentioned that I'm friends with law enforcement, and coincidentally, we have our good friend JB on hold, and so that's kind of a surprise. I was trying to time this for the end of the show, but this is good. I can leave these few articles I'll talk about next week, but let's bring retired State Trooper JB on.
How you doing, Phil?
JB, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I was just listening to the testimony as your audience did, and it just rings to me as a problem, systemic problem that we all deal with every day, and you have testimony from credible people like yourself who have experienced it, and you can't get heard. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact that you've been laughed at and ridiculed when you are living this horror yourself, and it's just it's unfortunate. I'm sorry that you have to go through this. I'm sorry that other people have had to go through it. And, while this is being spoken about, which is actually something that the government formulated, participated in, and are running, parallel to that, how can we not look at an idiot like Chris Murphy standing on the floor of the Senate, shooting his mouth off for 10 or 12 hours? For what purpose?
Well,
He could have filibustered for you. He could have filibustered for you and those people that are victimized of this electronic warfare. He could have gotten further if he stood up there for 12 hours and talked about your plight than trying to take on the gun industry to make it look like, it's Colt, it's Remington, it's Winchester, it's Glock, it's Sig Sauer, it's all these different companies that are responsible for the murders that happen every single day. So I couldn't help but think, I guess if Lizzie Borden's parents had a good attorney, they'd be suing the Axe Company.
Well, that's right. That's right. And I mentioned to the viewers earlier, I said, you always hear in this gun control debate, and all our Connecticut politicians are all, they can only save one life, but yet none of them are interested in helping a lot of people that are going through this horrible treatment. And it makes me sick sometimes when they say we just want to save one life.
Yeah.
And it's...
So do you think that Chris Murphy saved one life by shooting his mouth off and drawing all this attention, this national attention, standing up there pounding his fist? I'm sure that those that are looking to grab the guns have greased his pockets pretty well. This is the senator. I think people forget. That's the other thing I think nationally, if I was to paint with a big brush, we are kind of guilty sometimes of having a short memory. This is the guy that was a United States representative that forgot to pay his mortgage for 5 months. And on the brink of being thrown out of his home in bankruptcy, suddenly came up with that 5 months of mortgages as a result of a loan that he got from a bank that he was doing business with. This is the same guy.
Yeah.
How do you look beyond that?
Obviously, he got some sort of kickback by standing there for 12 hours. And like you said, how did he not go to the bathroom, JB?
Well, we know what happened when the last liberal that stood up there, the female, we found out that, she had a 5-gallon pail hanging under her arms. I mean, but it goes to the phoniness, Phil, and, we laugh sometimes, but, and there are those people that are in the business of ticking the scab and bothering people and antagonizing people intentionally because they think that's going to be lucrative for them. But, people are dying in Connecticut every day. Double murder in East Hartford 2 days ago. A car stop in Milford yesterday. Drugs, guns. Have you seen the governor? I want to just ask this one question. This is several years past Sandy Hook. Now they've got the Sandy Hook victims. The victims' parents are the backdrop once again for this big lawsuit against the gun companies. So if they shut all the gun companies down, Phil, tomorrow, if Obama comes in with Loretta Lynch and they wave their magic wands and they shut all the gun companies down across the country, is that going to save one life?
Apparently not.
You got 500 million guns, probably, give or take. 500 million guns out there now.
You will never stop the black market with any items, whether drugs, guns, whatever. You know the deal with that. It just comes in all directions. And if our borders, we're letting everyone come in free, willy nilly, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing,
I mean, I'm sure that the wife that lost her husband and almost lost her son 3 weeks ago fishing up by Lake of Isles in North Stonington, husband drowned, no life jacket, drowned. You suppose they're going to go after the canoe company? I mean, if this is where we're at in this day and age, instead of, and Channel 8 actually sent something out tonight that said, well, do you think what Christopher Murphy did was worthwhile or not? And if it wasn't, tell us why. Well, I could tell you why in probably 2 sentences. If you seriously want to get a hold of not gun control, violent crime, random act of violence control, domestic terrorism control, if you want to talk about those things, and in parallel to those things, you put mandatory minimum sentences or death penalty, you're going to start getting people's attention, because a lot of these guys, other than the jihadists, other than the ones that want to be martyrs in the 72 version and all that stuff, they don't want to die.
Yeah.
They're all pillow biters at the end of the day. If I had 10 cents for every murderer I grabbed in my 20-year career that said I was going to turn myself in yesterday, I'd be sitting pretty good.
Yep. JB,
at the end of the day, they all need to go home to mommy at the end of the day. And, if they're not looking at that, if they're looking at the long hallway to that beautiful upholstered chair with the leather straps and the heavy wattage, they probably think twice about pulling that trigger.
Absolutely. We have only a minute left, JB.
Yep.
And it's fading out now, but I just want to thank you, because I did mention that I have a few friends retired from law enforcement, and I didn't expect you to call in tonight, but this is great, and you proved my point that a friend is a real friend, sticks by your back.
It wasn't a coincidence, pal, and I'm not making any money by talking about it either.
Great.
Hang in.
All right. Listen, good night, everybody. We'll see you next week. And Wally will be back. And thank you for watching. God bless all the viewers. God bless America. And wake up. And good night.
Dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans?
Of the CIA all over them. It's unreasonable to expect isolated individuals receiving this treatment to furnish proof. A thorough investigation is warranted. Thanks for your time.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan, and please give us a congressional hearing. Thank you.